We are following a lead ice climb and need to clean the screw placements. There are a few different considerations when compared to cleaning rock gear, so let's go through this step by step. Hi there everyone, I'm Jason. A few seasons ago we did a whole video on placing ice screws, getting into reading ice quality and placement angles, and a step-by-step procedure, the whole bit. But maybe you are newer to ice climbing and are adhering to the advice of following many ice pitches before leading ice pitches. If so, you'll be called upon to clean your leader's screws as you follow up the ice flow. Well, there are a few differentiators when comparing cleaning protection on ice from cleaning gear on rock, and those differentiators call for a more specific procedure when we're following and cleaning the route. The first is that we have spiky things on our feet that can get stuck in the ice if we fall. So even on top rope, if we've got a lot of rope out in the system and a more modern, skinnier rope, we could have a lot of rope stretch, get a foot caught the wrong way, and we could easily roll an ankle. Second, most ice screw types do not allow us to leave the jaw connected as we unscrew the placement due to the spinning. And this can make dropping the screw or jaw a bit more likely unless we mitigate that issue or have one of the rare models of screws that addresses this for us. And third, some ice conditions can leave a core in the screw. And if that refreezes without being cleared, it can be impossible to use that screw again until we find a way to thaw it out. So given these extra considerations, let's go through a step-by-step process for cleaning a screw. First, as we arrive at the screw, we want to get into a position where the screw is somewhere between our shoulder and our hip, just as we would when placing a screw on lead. This will be the most ergonomic for our arm and grip, saving those muscles for climbing. Next, we want to take the time to get a really good high tool placement, one we are sure we can hang on with a nice, relaxed, straight arm that will save our muscles. And we'll feel more comfortable if we can equalize our weight on level feet. Our other tool needs to be secure and placed somewhere out of the radius of the screw as we turn it. From here, we can secure the jaw by simply unclipping the jaw from the screw's hanger and then clipping that same end to our gear loop. Since it is still attached to the rope, this makes it impossible to drop the jaw, which is more likely given our gloved hands. Now we can unclip it from the rope. By the way, this is a good reason to rack our other gear on the back loops of our harness so that the front loops are available. At this point, we can use the crank and start to unscrew. Notice we are holding onto a very small component with gloved hands. That's an increased dropping hazard. So we don't want to just whip through the entire unscrewing process, as we might be surprised when the screw comes loose. So, to know when to slow down a bit, one of the things we will want to assess is the length of the screw. We can do this in two ways. If we are familiar with the make and model of the screw, we might recognize the color coding that goes with the length. Alternatively, until we get to screws shorter than 13 centimeters, all screw lengths have the same length of threading. So once we see the threads start to come out of the ice, we know that, unless we have one of those short stubbies, we have somewhere around 10 centimeters left. Once we get close to full extraction, we can slow down and be more careful. Now that the screw is out of the ice, we need to get a better grip so that we can either clear any ice core stuck in the screw or rack the screw. If we assume we need to keep one hand on our tool for balance, then we can use the thumb on our tool hand to grab the screw as we change our grip on our free hand. If we do have a core stuck in the screw, we can try to remove the core in several ways. If it's a fairly diminished and loose core, we can try to just blow it out. Just be careful about touching lips to freezing metal, so I will often keep my glove over the top of the screw so that my lips can't contact the screw. For a more significant core, we may need to tap the hanger of the screw against something. It is important that we only tap the hanger, as the threads are the part of the screw involved in creating the staying power of the screw placement. So we really don't want to damage the threads or the teeth. We can tap against our leg or the ice or even against the top of our free tool. Notice here that I am using a vector that pushes the tool head more into the ice rather than potentially loosening it. Basically, we are going from softer materials, but safer from both a dropping and potential damage perspective, to harder materials that may better dislodge the core, but add some of those risks. If we really can't get the core out, we do have a two-handed option should our balance allow it, or by maybe calling for a hard take. We can use our V-thread tool and plunge out the core. We want to be careful to try and avoid scraping the inside of the screw, so I leave the rubber cap over the hook if I have to do this. With the core cleared, now we can rack the screw to our ice clips. For this last step, we'd prefer to have the teeth angled back rather than forward. With the teeth forward, depending upon the location of our ice clips on our harness, we may be more likely to get the teeth jammed into our thigh as we continue climbing. Are you leading ice? About how many pitches did you follow before you started leading? Tell us your experience in the comments. Thanks for watching this video. Please like, subscribe, and share if you want to support us. For more information, you can go to our website at www.shortguysbetaworks.com. You can watch that video I mentioned on placing screws on lead, or you can check out our entire ice climbing series. We'll see you next week and keep on getting more out of that big outside.